Welcome back. I'm Alan Hodge with Legislative Watch. Once again, my guest this evening is Kathy Sims, State Representative, Republican from Coeur d'Alene, and we have been discussing urban renewal. When we left off before, we were alluded to the idea of maybe getting into the selection process. That here we have urban renewal districts, and there are people that are designated to run them by the mayor and city council. How does somebody get designated with this great wisdom to make these decisions on how to exercise the power of eminent domain and
Yes, absolutely.
and engage in the process of spending a lot of taxpayer money?
Spending a lot of taxpayer money. So there isn't any formula or guidelines or anything written as to how they have to or don't have to pick their boards. No. It's in many cases simply a political position.
I see.
As well as we have one member of our city council sits on our urban renewal board. We have a realtor on there. We have a developer on there. They're just at random from the community, people that the city council would like to pursue a plan.
You know, I do wonder maybe how random that is, because I'm wondering now if there could be some potential here for possible corruption, maybe the formulation of a good old boy network, the possibility of political favoritism being bestowed upon certain favored groups or individuals. You know, those kinds of things.
That's all quite possible.
And maybe it's highly likely.
Highly likely.
Yes. Well, I know that this is a controversial topic, and I know that there are a number of legislators, your colleagues over there, that are probably fill the spectrum on whether they're for or against urban renewal, but I understand that there is a lot of legislation coming up involving this topic.
There most definitely is, and I was so pleased to see it.
Yes.
But there has been somewhat of a hue and cry around the state. People are finally waking up to what's happening and to how much of the tax money is being spent. And I think that gets a little more intense when the economy's bad.
Yes.
When you're wondering about how to finance your schools and they're spending $12,000 to put flags on a building, or $50,000 for the Downtown Association to have a party, then the citizens start wondering, and they start writing their legislators, they start asking, they start making suggestions. The Idaho Freedom Foundation has been in the forefront of some reforms of this.
Yes.
And I've supported them. They wrote a book, and I wrote a book. And we've both been circulating them all around the state.
Yes.
And so we came up with some good legislation this year, I believe.
Well, I have some of this in front of me. In fact, I even have the original bill. And at one point in time, I was encouraged to actually read from it. I don't know if I want to do that.
Pretty boring, isn't it?
Yeah. It might put you to sleep.
Most legislation is.
But, as I read it, it seems to, the way, my take on it, it just seems to provide a great deal of open-ended discretion on the part of non-elected officials to spend an awful lot of money within an urban area.
An awful lot.
And I think I can understand that there is some really strong concern over this idea that they may be empowered to exercise eminent domain.
That was a real problem for me. I was involved in a discussion with the gentleman who was proposing legislation last year, and as he had a program on TV that you could call into, I was at the University of Idaho, and so I asked a question and said, how can you give the power of eminent domain to unelected officials? Is that good public policy? And he said, well, they've always had it.
Oh.
And I said, well, that wasn't my question. My question was, is that good public policy? So he didn't have an answer, and That's been a problem for most everyone who reads the legislation.
They've always had it. Now, see now, if I remember my history, Idaho became a state in 1890.
You're probably better at this than me.
So
A history buff I haven't been.
So I wonder if being one of the criteria for being admitted to the Union as a state, if Idaho had to adopt urban renewal, or if that came later.
Much later, I think.
That's only if you wish to challenge this blanket statement that somebody says we've always had it.
Yeah.
I know it goes back a ways though.
Yeah,
So,
I'm afraid it does.
yeah.
But now the money has gotten bigger, much bigger, and so I think that's why it's become more of an issue.
Yeah.
When the urban renewal, the first year it was in my district, it took $134,000 out of the tax, and that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But last year it was, $8 million.
Yeah.
And so from its inception, you add it up and it's $17 million.
Yeah.
And you have to look around and see what you got for your money.
Mm-hmm.
And if the projects that they wanted to do, if the blight they wanted to remove, if all that was such a wonderful idea, our Constitution has allowed us many ways to do it with levies and with bond issues and the whole thing, but they all involve the voters.
Well,
So I think the purpose of urban renewal is to bypass the voters, because they never have to ask anyone, once established, what the project will be or how much they can spend on it. They can spend the money on anything they want. They can give it away, and they do. They give grants. It's sometimes embarrassing at the urban renewal meetings to see everyone arrive with hat in hand, asking for their piece of the URD bucket of cash. So
I have a feeling that there may be even people that live in a designated blighted area that may not even know that their area is blighted.
I didn't notice mine. I've been on that location for 42 years and never noticed any blight.
Yeah.
And from my tax assessment, I don't think they've noticed it either.
Well, turning to some of the legislation that's going on, the one that I have in front of me is actually, let's see, I think it's a Senate bill. And I was leafing through this trying to locate it, but I understand now that there have been some new RSs that have just been converted into bills just within the last day or so.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you might be able to speak to some of those that have been introduced. And
Those came through the local government committee, which I'm on, and I carried one of the bills, or one of the proposed bills. The one I carried was to require an election of this board.
Oh, you mean those who are actually going to spend taxpayer money?
To be elected.
Well, they'll need to be elected?
Yes.
It's kind of a novel idea, isn't it?
In addition to it being a novel idea, I was going to require, or I am requiring, that a portion of them live in the county as well as the city, since this affects the taxes of the county as well as the taxes of the city.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bills. There's the bill to make it project specific, and the specifics of that project can't be changed until it's completed. And then they have to end the URDA. They don't have to run it 24 years when they've gathered enough funds to pay for whatever blight it was they were extinguishing.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are others that require a vote of the people for the project.
Yes, okay.
There's another one that requires the vote of the people to even establish a URD.
Yes.
So this is just little controls coming on all the time where we see that there are none.
Yeah.
And each piece of legislation came from a different representative, sponsored differently, and so it's from all over the state. So
okay.
For years I would be down here testifying on URD bills, and they would say, oh, that's just a problem in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
But that simply is not the case anymore. It's taken hold just about everywhere.
Well, when we come back, we'll discuss some of this legislation maybe in a little bit more detail, if that's okay. And we'll take that up as soon as we get back. We'll be right back. I'm Alan Hodge with Legislative Watch.